I never thought I'd be posting here, but I'm at my wit's end and need advice. I've been married to my husband Jake for 3 years now, and while our relationship is strong, his family dynamics are causing serious issues. From the day Jake introduced me to his parents, his mother Sarah never warmed up to me. She was polite on the surface, but I could always sense an underlying tension. At first, I chalked it up to the typical mother-in-law adjustment period, but as time went on, it became clear that her feelings ran deeper than mere discomfort. The real problem started about 6 months into our marriage when Sarah began inviting Jake's ex-girlfriend, Emma, to family functions. It started small. A casual barbecue here, a birthday party there. Each time, Sarah would make a point of fawning over Emma, reminiscing about the good old days when she and Jake were together. I tried to be understanding. After all, Emma had been a part of their lives for years before I came along. But as the invitations became more frequent and Sarah's behavior more overt, I couldn't ignore the situation any longer. One particularly memorable incident occurred at Jake's cousin's wedding. Sarah had seated Emma at the family table, right next to Jake, while I was relegated to a table with distant relatives I barely knew. When I confronted Sarah about it, she brushed me off, saying it was a simple oversight. Jake was furious and insisted we switch seats, but the damage was done. Another time, during Thanksgiving dinner, Sarah spent the entire meal praising Emma's cooking skills and lamenting how she used to help prepare holiday meals. She then turned to me and asked, with a sickeningly sweet smile, if I had any special dishes I could contribute next year. When I mentioned my family's traditional stuffing recipe, she scoffed and said, "Oh, I'm sure Emma's is much better." These incidents continued to pile up, each one chipping away at my self-esteem and straining my relationship with Jake. He always stood up for me, but I could see the toll it was taking on him to be constantly caught between his wife and his mother. The breaking point came last weekend during Jake's birthday party. Sarah had, of course, invited Emma without telling us. As soon as she arrived, Sarah rushed to greet her, loudly exclaiming how wonderful it was to see her and how much they'd all missed her. Throughout the evening, Sarah made pointed comparisons between Emma and me. She praised Emma's career achievements, her volunteer work, even her choice of outfit. Each compliment was followed by a thinly veiled criticism of me. I tried to keep my composure, focusing on celebrating Jake and making sure our other guests were comfortable. But then came the cake. As we gathered around to sing happy birthday, Sarah insisted that Emma stand next to Jake. When it was time to cut the cake, Sarah handed the knife to Emma, saying, "You always did this so beautifully, dear. Why don't you do the honors?" I'd had enough. I stepped forward and firmly said that as Jake's wife, I would be cutting the cake with him. Sarah's face turned red with anger, and she exploded. "You'll never be half the woman Emma is," she shouted. "Jake made the biggest mistake of his life choosing you over her. Emma is smarter, prettier, and a much better match for this family. You're nothing but an interloper who tricked my son." The room fell silent. I stood there, shocked and humiliated, as tears welled up in my eyes. Jake, who had been uncharacteristically quiet throughout the party, suddenly sprang into action. He turned to Emma, his voice cold and controlled. "I think it's time for you to leave," he said, "and don't ever come back. You're not welcome in our home or our lives anymore." Emma, looking mortified, quickly gathered her things and left. But Jake wasn't done. He rounded on his mother, his anger palpable. "How dare you speak to my wife that way?" he growled. "You've been undermining our relationship from day one, and I've had enough. We're leaving, and don't expect to hear from us for a long time." As we turned to go, Jake's father, who had been silent throughout this entire ordeal, finally spoke up. "If that's how you feel," he said, his voice tight with disappointment, "then perhaps it's best if you two find your own place to live. You have 2 days to pack your things and leave." And just like that, we found ourselves effectively homeless. We're currently staying with a friend while we figure out our next steps. I'm hurt, angry, and confused. Jake is supportive, but I can see how much this is tearing him apart. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to try and reconcile for Jake's sake, but another part feels like this might be the final straw. How do I navigate this mess? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice on my original post. The outpouring of kindness has been overwhelming, and it's helped us get through this difficult time. A lot has happened since my last post, and I'm still trying to process it all. The day before we were set to move out of Jake's parents' house, everything came to a head in a way none of us could have anticipated. We were in the middle of packing when Jake suddenly announced that he needed to speak to everyone. His parents, Emma, who had been called over by Sarah, presumably to help with the move, and me. He said he had something important to share, something he'd kept secret for years. Jake began by addressing his mother directly. "Mom," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know you've always wondered why I broke up with Emma. You thought she was perfect for me, and you never understood why I ended things so abruptly. Well, today you're going to learn the truth." He then pulled out his phone and played a video. At first, I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. Then, with growing horror, I realized it was footage of Emma and Jake's father, John, in an intimate embrace. The timestamp on the video showed it was from 5 years ago, when Jake and Emma were still together. The room was deadly silent as Jake explained. He had accidentally discovered the affair when he borrowed his father's laptop and found a hidden folder of videos and photos. The betrayal had devastated him, but he couldn't bring himself to confront them or tell his mother. Instead, he had quietly ended his relationship with Emma and distanced himself from his father. "I've kept this secret for years," Jake said, his voice breaking. "I didn't want to hurt you, Mom, but I can't stand by and watch you mistreat my wife any longer. Emma isn't the perfect angel you think she is, and Dad isn't the devoted husband you believe him to be." The reaction was immediate and intense. Sarah turned to Emma, her face a mask of disbelief and rage. "Is this true?" she demanded. Emma, pale and shaking, couldn't meet her eyes. She stammered out an apology, trying to explain, but Sarah cut her off. "Get out," Sarah hissed. "Get out of my house and never come back." As Emma fled, Sarah rounded on John. The look of betrayal on her face was heartbreaking. "How could you?" she whispered. All these years I defended you, supported you, loved you, and this is how you repay me?" John tried to speak, but Sarah wouldn't let him. "Don't," she said, her voice ice cold. "Don't say a word. I can't even look at you right now. I'll be contacting my lawyer first thing in the morning. I want a divorce." With that, Sarah turned to Jake and me. The change in her demeanor was startling. Gone was the haughty, disapproving mother-in-law. In her place was a broken, vulnerable woman. "I'm so sorry," she said, tears streaming down her face. "I've been horrible to you both, especially you," she said, looking at me. "I was so blind, so stubborn. Can you ever forgive me?" I was in shock. Part of me wanted to lash out, to make her feel the pain and humiliation she'd put me through. But seeing her so devastated, I couldn't find it in my heart to be cruel. "It will take time," I said honestly, "but I'm willing to try if you are." Jake put his arm around his mother, and for the first time in years, she leaned into his embrace. "I'm sorry I kept this from you, Mom," he said softly. "I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I should have been honest from the start." We spent the rest of the day with Sarah, comforting her and helping her process this massive betrayal. John left the house, unable to face the consequences of his actions. As for Emma, we haven't heard from her since she ran out, and I doubt we will anytime soon. Jake and I are still trying to wrap our heads around everything that's happened. We've decided to stay with Sarah for now, to help her through this difficult time. It's strange. Just days ago, I couldn't wait to get away from this house. Now, I find myself wanting to support the woman who made my life miserable for so long. I know we have a long road ahead of us. Trust needs to be rebuilt, and there are years of hurt to work through. But for the first time since I married Jake, I feel like there might be hope for a real relationship with my mother-in-law. Thank you all again for your support. I'll update again when I can. Update 2. It's been a few weeks since my last update, and a lot has changed. I want to thank everyone again for their kind words and support. Your advice and encouragement have been invaluable during this tumultuous time. As promised in my last update, Sarah did indeed file for divorce from John. The process has been difficult and emotionally draining for everyone involved, but Sarah has shown remarkable strength throughout it all. The day after the revelation, Sarah contacted her lawyer and began the divorce proceedings. John, seemingly realizing the gravity of the situation, didn't contest anything. He moved out of the family home that same day, relocating to a small apartment he owned as an investment property. Sarah has been surprisingly open about her feelings throughout this process. She confided in me that while the betrayal hurt immensely, a part of her felt relieved. She admitted that their marriage had been struggling for years, but she had been too proud to acknowledge it. This incident, as painful as it was, gave her the push she needed to make a change. "I put so much energy into maintaining the image of a perfect family," she told me one evening. "I was so focused on what others thought that I couldn't see how unhappy we all were. I'm sorry I took so much of that out on you." Her apology meant more to me than I could express. We've been spending a lot of time together, and I'm seeing a side of Sarah I never knew existed. She's vulnerable, yes, but also funny, kind, and fiercely protective of those she loves. I'm starting to understand why Jake always insisted there was more to her than what I saw. Jake has been incredible throughout all of this. He's been a rock for his mother while also making sure I feel supported. He admitted that keeping his father's secret for so long had been a heavy burden, and he's relieved to have it out in the open finally. I always worried that if I told Mom, she'd blame me or not believe me, he confessed. I never imagined she'd stand by us like this. I feel like I'm getting my mom back after years of tension. As for John, we haven't heard much from him directly. He's communicated mostly through his lawyer, agreeing to Sarah's terms for the divorce without argument. Jake received one message from him, a long email apologizing for his actions and expressing hope that someday they might be able to repair their relationship. Jake hasn't responded yet. He says he needs time to process everything before he can even think about forgiveness. Emma has completely disappeared from our lives. We learned through mutual acquaintances that she left town shortly after the confrontation. Sarah admitted that she had been in sporadic contact with Emma over the years, keeping tabs on her and subtly encouraging her to stay in touch with the family. That has, of course, stopped entirely now. The most surprising development has been my changing relationship with Sarah. As we've spent more time together, we've discovered we have more in common than we ever realized. We've had long conversations about our backgrounds, our hopes, and our fears. She's opened up about her own insecurities and how they led her to be so critical of me. I was so afraid of losing my son, she admitted one day. I convinced myself that if I could just get him back with Emma, everything would be perfect again. I didn't stop to consider that maybe he had found happiness with you. I'm so sorry for not giving you a chance. It's not all smooth sailing, of course. There are still moments of tension, old habits that are hard to break. But we're both committed to building a better relationship, not just for Jake's sake, but for our own as well. Jake and I are still living with Sarah for now. We've talked about finding our own place, but Sarah asked us to stay a bit longer. This house feels so empty now, she said. Having you here, it helps. So we're taking it day by day. Sarah is starting to rediscover herself outside of her marriage. She's joined a support group for divorced women and has even started taking art classes, something she says she's always wanted to do but never had the courage to try. As for Jake and me, this ordeal has brought us closer than ever. We've had long, honest conversations about our families, our relationship, and our future. We're stronger for having weathered this storm together. I know we still have a long way to go. Healing takes time, and there will undoubtedly be more challenges ahead. But for the first time in a long time, I'm optimistic about our future as a family. Thank you all again for your support throughout this journey. Your kindness and wisdom have made a real difference in our lives. I may not update again for a while, but know that we're doing okay, and taking each day as it comes.